personal branding is portable, meaning that no matter where you go, you will always carry yourself. I always say like you cannot find your right fit right away. You have to start small and test the waters. Discovering yourself, it's not the end goal. It's a journey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Next Face Podcast. My name is Adeolu Ayemi, and today I'm joined by Urumi Hossein. She is a woman who wears many hats. She's a self-published author, speaker, blogger, podcast host, just like me, polyglot mentor, and she's the holder of both the CFA, that is the Chartered Financial Analyst, and CAIA, Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst designation. Rumi works in the financial industry in Canada, where she currently resides. Her first book, Discovering Your Identity, is a rebirth from interracial struggle, reflects her journey as a third culture kid, navigating questions of belonging, culture, and self-worth. She's the host of Stories Beyond Borders, a podcast that amplifies diverse voices and explores stories of identity, migration, language, and what home really means. She's a passionate woman talking about women empowerment. She serves as the co-chair of Women in Leadership's Montreal chapter. She's also a strong advocate for continuous learning and personal growth. One of her greatest passions is public speaking. She has been an active Toastmaster member since 2019, having served as both VP of Education and club president. In her spare time, she enjoys reading thrillers and mystery novels and staying active through boxing, workout, and running. Thank you so much, Rumi, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, when I was reading your bio, you've mentioned that you describe yourself as a corporate financial professional by day and a creative soul by night. Can you walk us through your journey and how you balance both worlds?
Yes, I am a corporate girl by the morning and a creative soul by the evening. I always say that I do have a 9 to 5 as well as a 5 to 9. And
Mm,
during my 5 to 9, I do a lot of my creative things. I create content, I do my podcasting, I go to the gym, I write, and I learn stuff. And the way that I've been doing this, really, it has been through time management and a lot
mm,
of self-discipline. I
mm,
always say Google Calendar is my best friend. I always have to make sure that everything is like written down on a calendar and that everything is like spread out during the week so I can keep track of the things that I have to do. And I
mm,
also can keep track of what I have done or what's missing without basically overwhelming myself and feeling burnt out. And so I do like to have that kind of balance because I feel like it helps me to, yes, I do my day-to-day job, but at the same time, I feel like I am also working on a purpose and working on a mission and feeling fulfilled by doing the things that I do outside of my 9 to 5.
mm. Thank you very much for that. I like the fact that you are able to work out that life balance, because sometimes when we try to do all this stuff, it usually leads to burnout. And like you have highlighted, you putting everything in your calendar so that you can see it, you can also space it out so that you won't burn out. I love that. That is what most people needs to learn how to do. People are always scared of, oh, it's going to be stressful. It's not as if it's not stressful, but if you know how to manage the stress, it's going to be fine. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Another thing I've also noticed about you, I know that you are passionate about mentoring women, especially women in leadership and so on. What barriers do you see that women face when it comes to leadership, and how do you support them in breaking through those barriers?
I would say probably the biggest barrier is probably a lack of self-belief.
Mm,
A lot of the times, I think a lot of these women that I speak to, they are pretty talented and they have all the required skills, but there is a lack of belief in themselves and in the fact that they feel like they're not good enough. So that's
mm,
where imposter syndrome kicks in. That's where they feel like, okay, I don't know if I'm fit for this role. I don't know if I believe I deserve this role. So my job has been through this mentoring relationship is to have this kind of conversation to basically speak about it and go deeper on why they feel such way.
mm,
And through mentoring, I have been providing my own experiences about how I felt and hoping that, they can take some learned lessons from my own experiences and start to, untap on their potentials. I do have to say that it's been quite difficult when it comes to, leadership. I feel
mm,
like there is a lot of underrepresentation in many industries, and that's because I feel like women are not supported enough. And this is why there are these organizations that I volunteer for, such as Dress for Success, 100 Women in Finance, Femme Palette. They do provide the resources, and I am part of a big organization called Women in Leadership.
mm,
And basically, our job is really to provide the tools necessary for these women to really start believing in themselves. So we do have leadership development program, we have a mentorship program, and then we have like ongoing webinars throughout the years, such as things related to career advancement, things related
mm.
to imposter syndrome. So it's really helping these women to start believing in themselves.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for talking about the fact that so many people don't believe in themselves and helping mentoring them through that process. So what are the ways you've talked about you talking to them, mentoring them and whatnot? How do you think after the mentoring section, how do they like get that turnaround? How do they move to somebody that is not believing in oneself and now being having that confidence to be able to say yes, I can do this thing?
I can definitely tell you that there has been a lot of usually like what I do is that I provide them with sort of like tips and advice. Like I
Mm,
give practical tips, meaning that I want the mentees that I am mentoring to be able to apply everything that I have learned right away. So I'm gonna give
mm,
you one quick example. There was this girl who wanted to work on her public speaking skills, and I told her, okay, there are these different clubs where you can go and try it out. And I told her like there is one in particular that you can go to my work with your schedule. And the next time she actually went and attended one of those public speaking clubs. So
mm,
basically, like my job has been through this conversation to be able to provide some practical elements that they can apply right away, something that is like tangible and small.
mm,
Because, sometimes maybe if it's something big, you feel overwhelmed, you feel scared, you feel like you want to walk away.
yeah,
Uh, but I tell them like let's start small. Let's start with one thing and then see how it goes. So with this girl in particular who wanted to work on her public speaking skills, it just happened that like I gave her one resource which was try a Toastmasters club and see how you feel about it. And so after that she actually went and then she realized that like this was pretty good and she wished someone told her about this earlier.
mm,
So I always provide practical tips.
yeah. Okay, that is good. And when you are working with these women, when you are mentoring them, how do you help them to be able to create their personal brand, to be able to stand out, especially in male dominated industries?
So for personal branding, I always say you have to think about what you're good at
Mm,
and you have to think about what kind of value you can bring to someone. I think especially if you work in a male dominated industry, personal branding is very important because it helps you to stand out and it helps you to create opportunities. It helps you to network with other people. But it's something that it really takes time and
mm,
you really have to work on yourself and see, okay, what is it that I'm good at? And as I always say, you have your day-to-day job, but then you have a life outside of your day-to-day job, right? Like
mm,
you are known for something. You might be known as podcasters. You might be known as a blogger. You might be known as a YouTuber, or you might be known for other things as well. So I always say, like, do some sort of like an inner work where you look at your strengths, look at the skills that you have, and start working on those things.
mm,
So I'm gonna give you one quick example about me. Like I used to, like I write for different organizations, but before it started with my own blog. However, when I first did it, I wasn't quite sure. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna like start and see if I'm good at it. And then little by little, I started to do other things. I started with blogging and then I started with YouTube, but it was something that it was more like a trial and error. And
mm,
I always say, like, you cannot find your right fit right away. You have to start small and test the water, see what you're good at. Because I always say, like, yes, you want to be known for working for a certain company, but as I always say, personal branding is portable, meaning that no matter where you go, you will always carry yourself. You will always have your skills, your strengths, and you want to be known for you as an individual, not you as someone who works for a company. So
mm.
I think it's essential to build your personal branding, because I feel like no matter where you go, you want people to talk about you, and
Exactly.
that's what personal branding is about. So I always say, like, it has to start from understanding what you're good at, the your hobbies. You can start with your hobbies and see how you can like make that, like how you can work on that and grow on that hobby basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like maybe stepping out of your comfort zone. And yeah, to yes. Sometimes most people feel that, oh, I remember talking to somebody and the person is like, oh, that is just my hobby. It's not something that I can use to create a personal brand. And some people feel that personal branding have to be something so big, something so huge before you can just step out, but it might just be an hobby, and you just, like you said, you work by like refreshing it, refining it till you are able to get that. I also like the phrase you use. You said it's like testing the waters, like trying this and see if it works. If it works, how can you improve it? How can you make it better? That is how to build your personal brand. Thank you for that. um what is, I know you are also in finance, like during the day you are in finance, like for people that are in corporate finance, how can they build their personal brand? Fine, they are working for organizations, but how can they build their personal brand in that corporate finance space?
It's pretty much what I said,
Mm,
what I just said. Like it's really like you don't have to, it's not about building your personal brand in the corporate space. It's more about building your own personal brand, no matter where you go.
mm,
Because you don't want to build a brand within your corporation, like meaning that, as I said, your personal brand is something that you carry with yourself forever. Like I can work for X, Y, and Z, but then I can also work with ABC company. You want to make sure that no matter where you go, you stay true to yourself and you carry yourself the same way as you did in X, Y, and Z, as well as in ABC. So you don't want to like build a brand within a company, because then you will always be associated with that company. I don't,
mm.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, like I think it always starts with your hobby and building on that. And I think what you can do as a person is that you can bring a little bit of your identity and personal branding in the companies you work for. Like you always want to show yourself as your most authentic self. So
Mm,
for instance, I'm going to give you a quick example. So I am a big advocate of women's empowerment, and this is something that I do like outside of my day-to-day job, but it's something that I am very vocal about as well, like in my company as well. So if there are like events such as, let's say, International Women's Day, or if there is an opportunity for me to speak, I always step in those opportunities, because I
mm,
want people to know me for that kind
mm,
of person. Urmi is, we know that she does things related to women's empowerment. Maybe we can invite her to speak at an event in the corporate world, in my
mm.
company. And so in that sense, I think it should be a good way to develop your personal brand. Like you want people, even within your company, to know you for what you stand for.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So, moving on, I know still part of who you are, still part of what you do. I know you've written a book, discovering your identity, a rebirth from interracial struggles. Can you tell us a little bit about the book? I don't want you to tell us everything. Definitely, people will go and read the book. But can you just like summarize the book and also share the motive behind you writing that book?
Yes, the book was basically it's a memoir, so it's my own story. And basically I'm talking about my childhood and teenagehood growing up in a country that is completely different from the country where my parents are from. So basically I'm a third culture kid. So I was born and raised in Italy, and both of my parents are from Bangladesh. So in the book I'm basically talking a little bit about the struggles in trying to fit in, and I'm making a comparison between the two cultures.
Okay.
And the book was pretty much inspired by another author who pretty much did the same thing.
Mm,
However, she's based in Canada. So I picked up her book and I was like, oh my gosh, like this feels so much similar to my story. And so I was inspired by her to do the same. And then one day I started like sitting down and writing things, and I was like, okay, I want this to be a reality. So then
mm,
it turned out to be a book. Yeah.
yeah. And what was your what did you learn along the process of you writing the book? Not your story now, like you writing the book. What were your lessons from writing that book?
Well, for me, it was, very therapeutical because, of course, you're writing about your story. It felt
Mm,
like it was a digital type of journaling because you're typing on a computer,
yeah.
and it was also very, very healing. And at the same time, each memory was pretty vivid in my memory, so it felt like I was living
Mm,
those
mm,
events in the moment that I was
mm,
writing them. So yeah.
yeah. And do you usually see, or do you see writing and storytelling as also a form of personal empowerment?
Yes, for sure. For sure, because I think with the stories, if you are vulnerable enough, you can have people to relate to you and connect with you. So stories can be empowering. This is why we always talk about the power of storytelling,
Mm,
because stories are what people are able to relate with you. Sometimes we may go through the same thing, and people will be like, "Oh, I also went through that," and then
mm,
that creates an instant connection. So I would say stories are very, very powerful.
yeah. And yeah, I story are really powerful. And what is like a lesson from the book? Like I said, we are not saying everything about the book, but what is one lesson from the book that you wish every listener or every reader of that book can apply in their own life?
I would say, and this is also the message of the book, which is self-acceptance and embracing your cultural identity. So embracing your roots. That was my lesson learned, and this is also the message that I'm trying to give to the others. Sometimes we just want to disconnect or neglect one side of our identity, but I think it's important to embrace our identity as a whole and celebrate our diversity.
Yeah, yeah, especially like every area of our life, that identity is peace. I remember at last weekend, I met with somebody that is also into helping young people identify their roots, understand their identity, and it's just like this. She was talking about how people that are from Africa, how they can embrace their identity. And she was specifically focusing on the kind of hair that they have. So using that as a starting point to be able to educate people on identity, because like you
Mhm.
said, is that is mostly the main thing. You being that getting that self-awareness, self-consciousness to be able to identify where you are coming from. It will help
Mhm.
you in where you are going to. Yeah, I love that. That's self-identity. Yeah. So, looking back at your journey in finance, writing, blogging, mentoring, speaking, and a lot of art that you are wearing, how do you tie them together? How do you merge them together to be your brand?
That's a good question. I would say is just about, I think one word that comes to my mind is passion.
Mm,
And so for me, like if I think about the things that I do, one word that holds them together is passion. Like
mm,
I think that no matter what I do, I always put, my passion, my love, my dedication, my devotion, and it shows in the work. And I am equally devoted to one side as well as the other side. And for me, that's very important because I do want to show up as my most authentic self and telling the world, you know, I am a finance girl, but at the same time, I'm also this woman doing all these other things, and I'm
mm,
not gonna give up in any of them because this is what I want to stand for. So for me, I would say it's a passion and being able to empower others, but also feeling empowered myself.
mm, mm. I like that. Passion. I think passion is, if you are not passionate about what you are doing, you are going to struggle. I always also say for myself too, passion is what like hold me down, hold me together, because sometimes
Yeah.
you might be faced with challenges and you'll be like, why am I even doing this in the first place? Maybe especially if it's not your 9 to 5 job, nobody is actually paying you for it. You'll be like, why am I stressing myself? Why am I doing this? But when you are passionate about things, when the challenges come in the moment, you might be like, oh, I want to go back. But when you remember that, oh, I'm passionate about these things, when you remember why you start those things in the first place, that give you the speed to go ahead, that give you that resilience to go ahead and be like, okay, this is just a moment, it's going to pass. And yeah, so passion is mostly what carry everybody through the journey. Yeah.
Yes.
We are coming to the end of this episode. What message do you hope our listeners walk away with about discovering their own identity and building a life that feels authentic?
So for me, what I would say is that discovering yourself, it's not the end goal. It's a journey. You
Mm,
have to live it truly and you have to live it honestly. It might take time, but that's okay. That's part of the game. And I would say also do not live based on people's expectations, live
mm,
authentically. Because I think we live in a society where it's pretty, we do feel the pressure to basically perform a role, to fit a role, but
mm,
sometimes that comes with a big sacrifice, which is being dishonest to ourselves and not being happy with what we're doing. And so my message is always be true to yourself, live authentically, live honestly, and enjoy every piece of it.
mm. Thank you very much for that advice. Live authentically. That is just the goal. You don't have to be what people want to be. You want you to be, but be what you yourself want to be. I like that. Thank you very much for that advice. And if people want to get your book, where can they get the book? Can you share where they can get the book for?
For sure. So my book is available on Amazon. It's called Discovering Your Identity: A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle. And if people, let's say, they want to hear about my podcast, it's called Stories Beyond Borders Podcast, which is available on Spotify as well as Apple Podcast. And if people want to connect with me in other ways, I'm also available on LinkedIn. My profile is called Urmi Hossain, and I also have a YouTube channel called Urmi Hossain.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to put the link to all this in the description so that it will be easy for people to just click on it, learn more about you, learn more about the book, and also get the book. Um, any final words before we end this episode?
Any final words? Well, this was fun. You are a great host. I feel like we always thank the guest, but we never thank the host. So thank you for having me today. It was a very fun conversation.
And thank you so much for also joining the conversation. I really enjoy. I also learned a lot from the conversation. Thank you so much. And for our listeners, remember to like and share with your friends, and also follow us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.